Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Today I am talking all about Saxon Math. We've been using Saxon Math for 2 years now. I've used a couple different levels, and so I decided to kind of make an update video. I reached out to you guys on Instagram and asked what questions you have. I also just get questions all the time, specifically with Saxon Math, so I figured sit down, I talk about Saxon, and I'll answer some questions and share some resources as well. So I really like Saxon Math. I finally feel like I'm content with my math curriculum for my kids. I don't really feel at this point for my 5th grader and 3rd grader that I even want to entertain other math curriculums. I just feel like it works for us. I think it's a solid program, and it is really nice, like that feeling of like missing out on other curriculum or wanting to try other curriculum is completely gone in the essence of like math for those age levels. So we first started using Saxon last school year with my oldest because she was using the Good and the Beautiful, and it just was not working for her for very specific reasons. I made a whole video specifically why we switched from the Good and the Beautiful math to Saxon Math. And then once she went through the program, I just knew again that it was something that I really liked, and so I decided to have my middle daughter start using it at the end of last year. And with hers, I was kind of hit or miss. She was enjoying the Good and the Beautiful that she was using, but she wanted to try it out, and again, it's just worked really great for her. So I'm not saying it's like the best curriculum and I think other curriculums are bad. It's not. There's plenty of great curriculums. If the Good and the Beautiful works for you, use that curriculum. We just found something that works for us. It works for my 2 older daughters, and so that is why we use it, and I'm pretty content on just continuing to use it. I also do believe there is the way that curriculums are written, regardless of whatever curriculum you use. If you're constantly changing curriculums, then you're not like following the path that they designed, because all curriculums are different. So now that I've gone a few years of seeing Saxon, I've seen their 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade levels. I can see like concepts that are being taught, concepts that are being reinforced. So I do see the value also of like sticking with one curriculum. So Saxon is like kind of like a, I don't know, like a drama, I guess you could say, because there's John Saxon, who created the Saxon method. He has passed. His company has been obviously bought over by a different publishing company, so there's a lot of drama, or I feel like that's like a negative word. It's not negative, but there's like a lot of strong feelings about like what editions you use. I'm not going to speak to that. I think that the methods behind it are strong regardless, so I'm not going to get into like what editions to use. I think I use like the most up-to-date edition, so I'll just share that. That's my experience. There are a couple different like themes you'll notice. So this is like I think the most common Saxon that you'll see, how it's set up, where it's Saxon Homeschool, and it has like the 2 grade levels on it. So this is Saxon 5-4, which is their compared to 4th grade level, and then like Saxon 6-5, which would be their like 5th grade level. These are specifically built for homeschool families. And then when you are in the younger grades, you will see like this kind of design, this like Saxon kindergarten 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and then this design also for like pre-algebra, algebra, and up. So these are like the designs that you will see for Saxon. Plus, there are also Saxon Math that is made for schools. I'll pop a couple pictures up here. These, from my understanding, are meant more to use like in a public school type setting. So that is what those are. There is a huge difference between Math 3 and then the 4th grade program. My favorite is the 4th grade. I think, like I said, I was indifferent on my daughter doing the 3rd grade one. I knew in 4th grade I would have switched her to Saxon, but I was kind of iffy trying this program out because I have heard that just there's like kind of a learning curve jumping from this to this. The amount of problems, the way that the problems are presented, it's just set up differently. And so there's definitely going to be like a learning curve there. However, I don't think it's that extreme. This is still true Saxon, black and white, problems on a page. There's fact practice. You learn a new skill, and then you're always reviewing previously taught skills. So it's very much spiral method. You're always continuing to see your kids like review previously taught subjects. So that is something I really like. I like that there is a point of they need to master it, and you will easily be able to identify if they're always getting the same type of problems incorrect, but they're constantly reviewing. So they're not going to learn a skill and then lose it either, because they're constantly being assessed and tested on that. Now, to explain these levels, from what I understand, so there's always 2 numbers on these like higher grades. The second number is like the on grade level, and then the first number is like maybe for someone who just needs some extra practice. So this might be good for maybe a 5th grader in age, but they just need to kind of go back and focus on their skills, or a 4th grader who's on track, who's confident in math. So that is why you see the 2 different ones. Very confusing. I don't really understand why they did that, but that is the explanation that I read. So this 5-4 I used for my 4th grader. 6-5 I'm currently using now that she is in 5th grade. 7-6 we'll use next year when she's in 6th grade. All right, so pulling up some of the questions. One of the questions I received is where to start with Saxon. So with any curriculum, most companies have something called the placement test. So I would never say just because your child's in this grade, they should go on this. You should take the Saxon placement test, which I will link down below, and use their guiding of where your child should fall. I am a firm believer is like, especially in math, not to push your kids ahead, especially if you're changing curriculums. Like I said, there are concepts now that I've seen 3 years of Saxon that they're really building on these concepts year after year. And so if you're changing curriculums, it may be better to go back a year than ahead a year. If you're kind of like trying to decide, I would never jump ahead. I would always stay at grade level, or maybe go back one, just to make sure they're good with those skills, build that confidence. Something that I really like about Saxon is every, I think, 5 lessons, there is an assessment, there's a test. Now, not every homeschooler likes tests, not every kid does well with tests. And so if you are a parent, or if you have a kid that does not like testing, you may want to rethink Saxon. It doesn't mean you can't use it, you just are going to be skipping a lot of the content, because like I said, every 5 lessons there is a test. I like the test because it shows me how my kids are doing. It gives them feedback on how they're doing. And again, that's where I can hone in on, are there specific skills like they're not understanding? Because the tests, it's not that they repeat the same questions, but they repeat the same concepts. So I can look back over the past 3 tests my kids have taken, and if they're getting the same question wrong, like the same type of question wrong, it tells you what lesson that concept was taught in, and we can go back, and I know we need to probably review that lesson or use something to supplement it. Like they're just not comprehending these questions. So I like the test. My kids, well, my 5th grader really responds well to being graded and tested. It makes her feel good. She wants to do a good job. She works a little bit harder through her problems to get those higher scores. So for her, it's a really like positive reinforcement thing. My 3rd grader, she could care less. I mean, she takes the test, and I think she does tries to do her best, but she could take it or leave it. They're not motivating her anymore. She's gonna do it regardless. So that's just kind of, my kids aren't exactly the same. They don't just wake up and love and want to do school, but they are different to where I still see Saxon and the assessments being a benefit for both of them. Another question I received is, have they done any recent revisions? Has it been how it's always been? They used it 20 years ago themselves as probably a homeschool kid. Saxon's been around a really long time, and so I'll say that first. It's tried and true. Like, people have graduated using Saxon Math. They've gone on to college. They've been very successful using Saxon Math. So that is also a reason I really like it, because when we're talking about new curriculums, they may be great, but is it tried and true? Have kids graduated using it? Have we seen out the entire curriculum from kindergarten to calculus, right? There's not many curriculums that are that long and that covers that many grade levels that we've seen the results of it. So again, like I said before, there's been many editions of Saxon. The ones I have Hawk and Saxon. These are obviously, I think, the most recent ones. I don't know how to tell unless it says in here what edition it is. This says it was published in 2000. Oh, it's the 3rd edition. So I'm using the 3rd edition. This was in 2005. I have no idea, to be honest. My opinion is I would probably use the most recent editions. You're going to get more support if you use outside resources like we use Nicole the Math Lady. She's going to keep up with the newest editions. The world is changing. The way we learn in math and computers and technology, I think things need to be updated. So there is, I think I've found something that explains all the editions before, and I'll link it down below if you really want to like read about all the editions and people's thoughts and comments on it, but it's not something that I personally care. I go for the most recent editions. Someone asked how many problems there are. Now this is a super, like, this is one of the most complaints I hear about Saxon, is the number of problems. So in these types of books, there is a lesson that teaches you a new concept or a new part of a concept, and that's called your lesson for the day. And so you have lesson practice questions. You normally have, depending on the skill you're learning, around, I'll say, 5 problems. So those 5 problems are specific to that new concept that was taught in that lesson. And then you have something called mixed practice. Mixed practice is taking all those previously learned concepts and continuing to question your children on them. So again, that is why I really like Saxon, because it's introducing those new concepts, you're practicing those new concepts, and then those get thrown into the daily mixed review. So the mixed review is anywhere from 20 to 30 questions is really what I've seen it be. As you get into higher concepts, some of those can be pretty time consuming when there's like multiple parts to the question. Now the good thing is, because it's a mixed review, it's tons of different concepts. So it's not like you're going to have 20 problems on the exact same concept. It's pulling all different things. Some are simple multiplication problems. Some are complex word problems. So there's a variety in the questions, but they are heavy. So when I first started using Saxon, I was recommended to only do half of the mixed review problems. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this, and if you use a system like Nicole the Math Lady and like their grading, they actually have these as options to set up your course. So like it knows your children is only doing half the problems. So you can do like every other problem, or like what we do is if the day of the month we're doing it is an odd day, we do the odd problems. If it's an even day, we do the even problems. And that's just what has worked out for us, because like I said, you get a mixture, but there's like 2 to 3 questions on every concept. So at least if you're alternating between odd and even, you're getting at least one practice of those types of questions. So that's what we do. So we are only doing half, right? So we're only doing 10 to 15 problems. And I feel that that's enough. I feel like my kids are getting enough practice. I don't think they're struggling. Now, if your child is struggling, like I said, with those assessments, with the practice themselves, each question tells you what lesson that concept was taught in. every practice problem, every test problem, it always tells your child what lesson they learned that concept in. So again, if your child is struggling and you notice it's that same lesson, that same concept, you can go back and reteach that lesson, or maybe supplement for whatever reason. So you're gonna see if they're struggling, whether you do all the problems or half the problems. When my oldest was in 4th grade and now in 5th grade, she spends around 45 minutes doing math. That's been pretty standard from mid 3rd grade through 5th grade. I mean, that was when we used the Good and the Beautiful. Switching to Saxon, her math time is around 45 minutes. That's her doing the lesson, like watching the lesson online, Nicole the math lady, and then her practice problems. My 3rd grader, her book, it's set up completely different, and we don't do everything recommended. Just, we don't do a lot of the fact practice problems. My kids are pretty strong in their fact practice, like the quick timed, like 1 + 1, 2 + 2, 1 × 3, like those. We skip a lot of those. But this is like her practice lesson, and there's normally around 7 to 10 problems on these pages. There is a and then on the back a B, where it's exactly the same types of problems, just different numbers. So I used to make her do A and B, and it would probably take her around 30 minutes. Now she's only doing A unless she's struggling, then I'll make her do B, because she's doing some supplemental stuff with multiplication. So 3rd grade is definitely a little bit easier, which it should be. But you just want to keep that in mind. That's one of like the jumps I see from their math 3 to their 4th grade math, is like the amount of problems that they're expected to complete. Another question I received is, what is the difference from Saxon and the Good and the Beautiful? I'm going to link that video I did talking specifically about when we switched from the Good and the Beautiful to Saxon, because that was more of our personal experience. If we're just talking about point blank, the Good and the Beautiful is pretty, it's colorful. I think it's more fun for kids, but the pages are very like overwhelming to me, because you have the teacher's guide and the math, or the students, like all kind of laced on one, like the pages. Where Saxon, you have like the lesson, the teacher portion, and then the practice problems. Saxon is black and white. There's no frills, there's no fun to it. It can be overwhelming to look at the page because everything looks the same. There's no pictures, there's really nothing fun. I will say in like math 3, my daughter does use a little bit more manipulatives, like she'll print stuff out, she'll draw graphs and stuff. But it's black and white. There's no fluff, is what I kind of feel like the Good and the Beautiful has. It's a lot of fluff. It has characters, it has stories. Saxon is not like that. It's pretty to the point. Saxon is tried and true. They have kindergarten through calculus, every grade. They have a variety of high school courses. They have pathways for high school, college prep courses, college eligible credit courses. So in my eyes, Saxon is just a longer standing curriculum, and I don't know what the Good and the Beautiful plans to do as far as middle school, high school. I can't really speak to that. No one has used the Good and the Beautiful their entire homeschool math career because it hasn't been around that long and they don't have all the levels. So I can't speak to that. I can say as a new homeschooler, the Good and the Beautiful is very simple to just open and go, especially in those kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade years, where I don't think I would use Saxon for kindergarten, 1st, or 2nd grade, just to be honest. I'm going to be doing a separate video on like my thoughts for math for younger kids, because there is a curriculum that I actually really, really like that I will use for my son before he transitions to Saxon. Other differences are there? I don't know. Like I said, I'll link that video. I don't know. It may be a personal thing too. I hear people love the Good and the Beautiful, and like I said, I think it worked for a season for us. It worked when we were new to homeschooling. It worked when my kids were younger. But their older grades, I just have not enjoyed as much. And I don't think the concepts are as strongly taught and reviewed as I do with Saxon. other things with Saxon that I really like is they have options for video lessons, which means there's someone or a company platform that teaches the Saxon lessons. There's a couple different options. There is, I think Saxon itself has something like their Saxon online videos that you can use. There is a company called Dive Math that I believe has lessons. I don't know if Dive does all grade levels or the older grade levels, but that's also an option. And then there's Nicole the Math Lady. I personally use Nicole the Math Lady. It's the one that my kids, I think, enjoy most. I love the platform. I love Nicole. So what that means is my kids log online to NicoleTheMathLady.com, and each of their Saxon lessons, Nicole has recorded herself teaching that lesson. And she knows the practice problems, like exactly lined up with what your kids are doing. And then her platform also offers like grading. So my kids watch the lesson with her, they do their practice in their Saxon books, and then they enter their answers into the online system and they get immediate grades. So that is what works really good for my kids and me. One, I'm a working homeschool mom, so this is a curriculum that I can be kind of hands-off with. I'm still there to help them if they're struggling. We can't just call Nicole and ask her to help us on a specific problem, even though I'm pretty sure she would help because she just seems like an amazing person. But for the most part, my kids can say, okay, I got this problem wrong, let's try it again. And we've gone through how to check your answer and things like that, so they can try again. If not, that's normally where I can help. So that is also something I really like about the ability that Saxon and using something like Nicole the Math Lady makes it a curriculum that I really don't have to teach. The younger grades of math are fine, but I was getting a little nervous once we started hitting that 5th and 6th and up math. I'm like, I'm gonna have to do the lessons myself, and I just don't have time to do that, to be honest. So I like having that. Like I've mentioned before, any test, any lesson problem, it always tells you what lesson that concept was taught in. So when my kids bring me a problem that they don't know how to do, if I don't know how to do it or I don't know how to explain it to them, I can quickly go to that lesson and reference it. As well as you do get, so this is a solutions manual that you get. This has all of the problems and it tells you like kind of how they should have solved the problem. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, but like it tells you like how they should have carried, how they should have added. So this is also an amazing thing for you, if you're great, even if you use a system to grade it, it's better for you to reference so you know how your child should have completed the work. So that's another reason I love it, is because of the options for the video lessons, the grading component. Nicole the Math Lady, I've done a video on Saxon with Nicole the Math Lady that I'll also link down below, where I'll show you more like of the online portion, so I will also link that down below. And I do have a 5% discount for Nicole the Math Lady as I'm an affiliate with them. One more thing I want to mention, there is a FAQ on Nicole the Math Lady's website. There's actually tons of information on Nicole the Math Lady's website in regards to Saxon. Every question that I've been asked, I've been able to find the answer on Nicole the Math Lady's website. So I'm going to link some of those resources as well down below. But if you have other questions, or you want to know something that maybe I didn't talk about that that maybe we use or how we use it, you can also leave those down below in the comments. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Thanks for learning about Saxon Math, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye guys.